All right, my friends. Video number 6, creating a calorie deficit for fat loss. First, let's do a quick recap and review. So up to this point, we've spoke of and we've talked about, obviously recommend tracking so you can get a whole view of everything you're taking in and an average of calories and proteins and carbs and tracking that Tootsie Roll. We want to understand our patterns across a week and more than just a day, the weekend included, and probably a couple weeks, and if hopefully you're still tracking. From there, we sorted out food portions and food types. We broke down the macros between the protein, carbs, and fats, and we have a very good idea of how much we're eating. We even touched on supplements and liquid intake. So we've been steadily improving the skill of tracking and improving the quality of foods that we're consuming, and in enhancing the level of awareness of what we're eating and as well as how much, okay? Now, this whole process can sound instantaneous, but in reality, it likely is going to take months to build the reps, the patterns, the habits, and it should. From eating whatever we want to, and our current patterns, which are probably have been less than ideal of how they've been ingrained for a while, to improving those and getting used to a new approach takes time. It takes repetition and consistency. And those are the foundational key ingredients, okay? That's a must, okay? So learning and doing all of these things and getting really good at them is super important before we talk about what we're going to talk about today, imposing the calorie deficit. Because imposing the deficit while stacking all those other things on top of that, those new behaviors all at once, it greatly increases the chance of failure because of overwhelm. And it can be a lot for an individual. So, just from doing those things, going back to those things that we spoke about, doing those things, the right things, eating healthy foods, eating to hunger, not stuffing ourselves. A lot of the time, people will lose weight, lose fat, just in that essential, let's call it the onboarding phase. So once we've done that, we have a really good grasp, let's say for months, this deficit portion will come much easier because we've laid a foundation. Now, some folks who are used to dieting and eat mostly healthy food, it could take a little bit less time, maybe some weeks, okay? But patience. Take-home message, don't rush. Everything takes time. Patience, Lord knows I'm working on this, is a skill that we will improve continuously. And we will be challenged as well, okay? Because we want it now. And know and understand, and you must accept that the deficit we're going to talk about today, the journey with this, only makes things harder, okay? But it's worth it where we want to go, okay? So once we're here and we're ready to purposefully lose the fat and our foundation has been built, okay? Keep in mind that 2 of our most important assets are going to be a caloric reduction and consistent physical activity with weight training. That is going to help burn the calories and build the muscle, okay? Hi. This is what powers all of fat loss, okay? Now, the SMART goal will be to lose between 0.5% to 1% body weight per week somewhere between 6 to 12 weeks. That's on purpose until we stop the fat loss process to give our body a little bit of a break, to recover, to normalize, to cool the process down a little bit. We call this the maintain phase. Then we reassess to take our next steps. Is that another fat loss or do we continue to maintain? This is a healthy fat loss approach. If we run the fat loss diet infinitely without breaks, just continuously, we can run into a plethora of issues. Okay, I also find it really helpful to remind ourselves that if we're in a calorie deficit, which we said is going to be much harder, that in 8 weeks, I'm going to go to maintain, or 12 weeks, I'm going to go to maintain. So you have an endpoint, you have a target. It gives you something to, look forward towards. Calorie cutting, roughly speaking, let's get into that. Ideally, 500 calories from your baseline diet will result in about a pound of weight loss per week. Now, if we bump that up to about 750 calories out of your baseline diet, that's going to result in about a pound and a half weight loss per week. So the question then becomes, how big of a calorie cut should I make? Okay. Now, quick disclaimer. I understand, I do, that most people want to lose the weight fast. They want to lose it quick. It's uncomfortable, all the emotions that surround carrying excess weight or the extra and unwanted body fat. However, we must remind ourselves that this is a longer, drawn-out process and is going to take time, to do it correctly and do it intelligently. Done right, it's about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds per week. There's exceptions there, of course. If we dip into way more than that and rush the process, from my experience and from what I've come to know and to learn, we run the risk of obviously tapping into muscle loss, a major drop in performance and energy, and not to mention we skip over the healthy habit building process and will likely just come to gain it back somewhere down the line. Okay, so let's get into this. We're gonna need a couple things. Number 1, your current body weight. Number 2, the weight loss goal in percentage per week, 0.5 to 1%. Multiply those two together and then multiply that by 500 calories. What? You lost me, Sean. Okay, here's an example with numbers. And if you need to, pause the video, write it down, go back 30 seconds after I explain it to rewrite it down. Super easy example. Let's take an individual who's 150 pounds body weight. Their weight loss goal, we'll say, is 0.5% per week. 150 times 0.005 equals 0.75 pounds per week. 500 times 0.75 equals a 375 calorie deficit. Voila. Okay, so how do we create that deficit? Well, first, 1 is we're going to add low impact activity. An example, a 10 to 15 minute walk per day. Now, I will say, most folks try to out-exercise their diet or over-exercise, double days, and that comes with a price. Trust me. So if you're already training 5 times per week and you start adding 3 to 5 days of running or extra weightlifting, you have to know and accept the potential downsides you're adding in terms of joint stress and the stress on your body. And hot damn, recovery here needs to be on another level if you're doing that, okay? Now, most people don't have time for that, but they bang up their bodies quickly doing that. So be smart. If you're at 5 days of training already, adding 5 days of walking, 3 days could be huge, or cycling. If you're at 3 days, ask yourself, can I add a 4th day to the gym? Or could I add more walking or getting outside, kayaking, whatever that is? Activity is the easiest one, and it helps with curbing hunger. From there, we go into some calorie reduction through fats. Remember, fats are 9 calories per gram. However, keep this in mind. We do not want fats to dip below body weight times 0.3. If we do, we tap into some hormonal things and we just create dysfunction. We don't want that. So balance cutting fats and carbs, never going below body weight times 0.3. It is that simple, okay? Recapping, add some activity, reduce your fats, reduce your carbs. Keep your protein, your lean protein at body weight. Keep that the same, okay? Now, the tricky part is maintaining your deficit can be difficult because the body is amazing at adapting. Your body's not trying to lose weight. Think about it. It wants to preserve. So if after 2 weeks or so, or somewhere along your journey, your body weight loss goal is not going down, remove another 250 calories at that point in the combination of fats and carbs and reassess. Okay, it's that simple. That's how simple it can be. Reassess, okay, and patience. Okay, my friends, I've just given you a safe formula for 6 to 12 week fat loss deficit, and you go into a maintain phase. There was some math involved, but now you have the data. There's also apps out there, Renaissance Periodization Diet app. I think that takes care of all the numbers for you if you don't want to do that. It's a small price of $15 per month, and it can take care of that and the guesswork for you. Otherwise, use MyFitnessPal, do a little bit of math, and you take on your journey, okay? Last thing, a lot of people start diets, they just don't finish them. So in our next video, we're going to talk about how to approach the common difficulties that come with a fat loss diet and how to overcome them. Enjoy.